Hello, everybody, and thank you for downloading EoS Radio, our very first episode, and it's an exciting one. We have Patrick Vieira on board. We're going to be talking about New York City FC. So much to cover, but for now, we're just going to take a minute to thank each and every one of you for downloading the podcast, for listening to it wherever it is that you're listening. This is a project that we have been working on for quite some time. Each and every week, EoS Radio will be producing 2 to 3 episodes, each episode dedicated to one of the clubs in the local market. This week, it's New York City FC, and you could thank a fan vote on Twitter for that one. NYCFC fans came out in force, won a Twitter vote, and here we are making our very first episode a Bluecast. Once we're on iTunes, once we're on Stitcher, we ask you to please subscribe to EoS Radio. We ask you to please give us 5-star reviews because, after all, this is what's going to drive the business. Whether it's EmpireSoccer.com or EoS Radio, we here at EoS are always striving to bring you the very best in soccer coverage in the tri-state area, and this is just a natural extension, a natural evolution for EoS. Again, thank you all so very much for downloading this very first episode. Patrick Vieira is coming up. Christian Araos will be breaking down NYCFC with me. This is going to be a fun one. I can't wait, and I hope you're as excited as I am. So, without further ado, let's kick this one off.
Covering the New York Red Bulls, New York Cosmos, and New York City FC, this is EoS Radio, the Bluecast.
Back, EoS Radio, and I am pleased to be joined by Christian Araos, our NYCFC beat reporter. Chris, how are you, sir?
I am doing well, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We just saw each other in what was pretty much a monsoon over in Purchase. The rain, the wind, it was absolutely nuts up there.
Yep. Thank goodness I had an umbrella, which was starting to break, but it held on, and I'm dry.
Well, the one good thing I got out of it, besides seeing the players and talking to them, of course, was a free NYCFC umbrella, which was a nice little gift from the club. So let's talk, Chris. I think we're too far removed from the last match. We're coming out of a bye week here. So let's talk about the first month of New York City FC under Patrick Vieira. It's been interesting. It's been revealing. And there's certainly a lot of areas where we can analyze and break down. So what have your thoughts been thus far of the Patrick Vieira era?
Well, they're at the same point they were at under Jason Christ last year, thereabouts, in terms of results. So it almost feels like you've taken a completely different path to end up at the same point. But that being said, there is definitely more, the groundwork's being laid for something that wasn't apparent last year, and that this year you can tell what Vieira is trying to do with this team. And it's just part of a process.
Well, when I look at the club this year, and it is part of a process, you're absolutely right. I think that Vieira, in for lack of better terms, is almost given a European feel to the club. And I'm not saying it as far as the roster goes. I'm talking about the way he trains his players. We saw him today in training. It's raining, it's pouring, there's mistakes happening on the field, and Vieira is very quick to point out who's making mistakes left or right. Off the field, the team has more unity. From what I understand, they're doing lunches together. They're doing two-a-days every now and again. They're doing dinner together. They're being more regimented. Vieira has taken this club and really from the outside to the field, from outside off the pitch to the pitch itself, he's really made it his own, and we're starting to see an identity form here. One thing I have to give you credit for, because I do believe you're the first person to mention it, that WM formation, which has followed this club through the past month. Talk a little bit about that and the influence that's had on this club.
It's one of those things that comes out of, I guess, the circumstances of this team and how this team was built from last year carrying over to this year, is that there's plenty of midfielders, not a whole lot of wide players, and given the home field, it's a narrow Yankee Stadium, how do you build that? You put four in the midfield and maybe change the shape, and he's gone with a box and just added 3 in the front and 3 in the back, and it's an old formation, but it fits both new ideas and the circumstances for NYCFC. the box midfield is something that's becoming a little bit more common these days. And we even saw it, you see it with the Red Bulls a little bit, and you see it elsewhere. Then that really fits NYCFC because you can put different players into different roles and specialize them each without having to, each way, so each player can contribute. You know, you have Pirlo as a deep line playmaker. Next to him is someone that's a destroyer that can cover the ground, and Federico Bravo. And then up front, you know, you have two inside midfielders that can surge forward and get into the attacking play, and Mix Discord and Thomas McNamara, who have both gotten off to a really good start this year.
I think it's unbelievable the change in those two players in particular, and that's directly from this formation, directly from this new change in regime here. Mixed Discord has been fantastic. Now, I'll readily admit, last season I was one of several people who was calling out his play. A recent ESPN article came out and said that he was the most overrated player in the league, and that was by a player vote. This is somewhere, Chris, where I would have agreed with the players last season, but we're seeing a completely different Mixed Discord this year, so much more dynamic. He's scoring goals, he's adding on assists, and Tommy McNamara, who knew that he had that kind of creative energy behind the way he plays? It's been a transformation for both players really in the middle of the field.
Well, what's so fascinating about McNamara was that he came into the league as more of a holding midfielder of Chivas. Then he got hurt, and before he got hurt, he was already making an impression. And then he comes back, he's playing on the left-hand side under Jason Kreis, and is actually he did a fairly respectable job, but now he's finally in a position under Patrick Vieira that suits his roles. And, you know, he's someone that can facilitate play and link the play up as well as join the attack. And we know he can finish, and he can find himself in the right spot to finish. So it's been a good fit, and it's been a good blossoming for McNamara, who's been through a lot in his early career.
Well, he's currently tied with David Villa for most goals on the team, which is just absolutely shocking. It's a complete difference from what we saw last year. Now, not everything has been peaches and cream with NYCFC. I mean, look at the record, as you said, 1-1-2. They still can't figure out a way of winning at Yankee Stadium. I mean, what is it going to take for this club to finally find root at Yankee Stadium and make it a place where the opposition fears coming there, not just the home side?
They have to cut the mistakes, really, and their set piece defending has to improve. It was a carryover from last year, and we've seen it come rear its head this year a little bit as well. But really, NYC have defended better this year as a team. There's so many times last year where you would watch the opposition in the final third, and you just wait for the goal to happen. And if it didn't happen, it was either Josh Saunders making a great save or some other miracle.
Right.
But this year, there's better organization in defense, but there's still the missed clearance or mistake that winds up costing NYCFC points.
And that's been a reoccurring theme. I mean, we spoke to Patrick Vieira about this today at Purchase at NYCFC training, and he's right to say it. I mean, look, the record may not look right for NYCFC, but it really has been the mistakes that have sunk the team, in particular in the early going of the season.
Yeah, and if it weren't any mistakes, they almost cost them their first win against Chicago, the opponent they're facing today. They had so many mistakes in that game that, you know, you're wondering if it was going to end up 4-4, and they were fortunate to get out of there with the win. And it's something that you can attribute to the early season for sure, but as the season progresses, and, you know, this next month, this is the time to really start sharpening up for each team in MLS, not just NYCFC.
Absolutely. Now, this week they're finally going to be playing again after that bye week against the Chicago Fire, back where they started. We saw what they did against the Fire in Toyota Park. It was really an impressive performance, and to get a win there in a place that is very, very difficult to achieve victory was definitely a statement. What do you see coming out of this weekend? This is a quicker Chicago team. They've gelled a little bit more. They're coming off of a victory. What is NYCFC going to be facing here?
They're really facing a team that's improved much more defensively. They've switched to a three-man center line with Kapilov, Vieira, and Jonathan Campbell, and it's really proved formidable. It held Columbus at bay. it kept the Philadelphia Union also at bay, who we've seen already have a really promising start to the year up front. So they're facing a team that's much more organized and much more capable of playing on a counter than previous teams they've faced. So this is going to be a tough test for NYCFC going forward and remaining disciplined as they try to find a goal.
Well, I think that it's also going to be a test of their defense. Up to this point, they have played some quality attacks, don't get me wrong, but I just don't feel like the defense has necessarily been tested. This week, with the type of speed that you're going to see from the Chicago Fire on a narrow Yankee Stadium pitch, how do you contain a David Ockham, for instance? It just seems like a large task for this club to take on, in particular with the flux that we have in the back line.
It depends really on how the Fire want to line it up. We've seen Vieira shift to a 4-man backline for this week, and I think that will match the threat better, in that you can have one person mark Ockham, and while keeping a spare man, because NYCFC don't have the pace to match Ockham anywhere in defense, and making sure you have the spare man will go a long way in really limiting his space and making sure that there's less for him to do. There's more for him to do to score.
Well, with that said, we can look at a couple of other aspects here of the NYCFC season. You have the Chicago Fire match coming up. We also have a few players that look like they're ready to come back from injury. We just came back, as I said, from purchase, talking to the players. Give us an update now. Jack Harrison. We even spoke a little bit about Frank Lampard. What is the status of those players?
Jack Harrison's still on a disabled list, but should be eligible for the April 27th match against the Impact. That would be the first game he is eligible to play in. Still, probably won't expect him around until maybe May, but he's training by himself, and he's been training by himself pretty regularly. So he's coming along. Frank Lampard is nowhere as near as Harrison or even Connor Brandt, who we saw doing some individual work as well.
Right.
We haven't seen, the most we've seen from him has been some light individual stuff, and it's been a little bit of a mystery as to what the timetable for his return is, what the prognosis of his calf injury is. And we just know it was a calf injury, but we don't really know how much damage was there, and it must have been a lot to have kept him out of both preseason and now into the second month of the regular season.
I think that, look, calf injury or not, it just seems a little bit odd that we don't see Frank Lampard in training. And the only real clue that we have that he's still in New York is by his appearances in other media events and charity events and things of that nature. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't even know Lampard existed. It's kind of a curious situation. Doesn't seem like your normal injury issue.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little strange. And, part of it feels like you wonder if this, as the month of April goes on, and with the European season starting to end, that maybe something, if it doesn't look like Lampard can be a key contributor, and with the summer coming, why waste the money? Why waste the DP slot on him? And maybe see if the grass is greener. Maybe see if you can find a piece that could actually bring this squad closer to the playoffs. Because there's holes that can be plugged, especially by a DP, that right now they can't plug.
No, clearly not. And it's an interesting situation with Lampard because you look at him as the kind of caliber player he is, a footballing legend, but does he fit in anywhere with New York City FC? I don't know about yourself, but I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing in this midfield. It's dynamic, it's young, they found a place for Pirlo, Mixed Diskerud and Tommy are finding their way into the lineup, they're being productive. Does Lampard fit? Is this a designated player that really isn't going to offer much once he's healthy?
Honestly, I don't think he fits.
No, me neither, bro.
The only thing he offers right now is problems, unless he plays phenomenally. And with all the respect to Lampard, he would have to come into this lineup and justify coming into it above both Diskerud and Thomas McNamara. And for people that don't follow NYCFC as much, that may seem a little bit abstract. especially comparing the reputations. But when you consider how well those two players have done this year, and then you consider how much NYCFC values Kwadwo Poku and developing him, it just doesn't seem to be in the club's best interest in the near and long future to give minutes to Lampard when the future is looking pretty bright in midfield already.
Yeah, in very short time too. Just a couple of additions this offseason, the right formation, a real focus on being a central attacking club. What Patrick Vieira has done in 1 year that Christ did in last year was get the team in line, in focus, and try to play to the team strength, not necessarily to the coach's desire. That's not a shot at Christ, it's just what I'm seeing out of Vieira right now, and it's been fairly brilliant to this point. How Frank Lampard fits into that is anyone's guess. Now, Chris, before we head off into our third segment with Patrick Vieira, nice interview under monsoon conditions at purchase. Give me your prediction for this weekend, man. You got the Chicago Fire at Yankee Stadium. 2 weeks off for NYCFC. Have they found a balance? Did you like what you saw at practice today? Are they going to come out victorious?
I think the Fire are going to put up a good test defensively, and I'm more confident the Fire's defending than NYCFC's attacking at this point in the season. So I'm inclined to say that NYCFC will drop points for another home game. But another part of me thinks that the extra part of the extra break, the week off, has helped NYCFC start to develop more chemistry, start to develop more of an idea of what they want to do going forward. They've shifted things a little bit. We saw David Villa move out wide left, which he's done last year, and allow for someone like a Patrick Mullins, Steven Mendoza even, to come in as a center forward as the number 9. And eventually, maybe it's Sunday, maybe it's next week, NYCFC finds the right attacking combination, because really that's just the last little piece of the puzzle. So, but I'm going to hedge my bets and say it's going to be a 1-1 draw on Sunday, but I would not be surprised if a new look front three gets the job done for NYCFC.
I think that's a spot-on analysis, man. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to echo it. I'm going to go for one draw also this weekend. I think, just as you do, New York City FC are just at that point where they're going to turn a corner. At least that's what it's looking like to me in training and games. But I don't think that corner is going to be there this weekend. Thank you so much, Chris, for everything. We are going to be right back with Patrick Vieira, segment 3. Stick with us, EoS Radio. Martinez here, EoS Radio, our very first episode, and we have a fantastic guest on board, a world soccer legend, currently the boss of New York City FC, everybody, Mr. Patrick Vieira.
Hello, hi.
Glad to have you on board, boss.
Thank you.
So we are currently at New York City FC training grounds, and we are a month and a day into your reign as the coach of NYCFC. I've always found it fascinating that a player of your ilk would join a team in Major League Soccer to start off his coaching career. What has this past month been like for you?
It's been really good. Honestly, I really loved every single day of the training session. Of course, I have a lot to learn regarding the league, regarding the rules of the league. But I'm surrounded by really good people who've been in the league for quite a long period of time. So they will assist me, and they assisted me really well. So I'm really enjoying it, yes.
In the first 2 press conferences that you had, I loved your reaction to this stuff, because I find it interesting as well. Again, a world soccer legend in Major League Soccer, and Major League Soccer is very unique, to say the least. You have the TAM rules, allocation. You can discover Leo Messi. You can actually put him on a discovery list. Are you managing your way around this? Are you getting a better understanding of the rules and regulations?
Yes, of course, because I'm a good listener, I will say it, and I have always a question, because there's always a new rules coming out and something that I don't really understand. But having David Lee and Claudio Reina next to me, they really highlight and clarified the question I have in my mind. But yes, it is a really difficult situation where you have some difficult on hard rules. It's really difficult to understand them all. But I'm planning staying here for quite a long period of time, so I will have time to learn all of them.
It's really interesting that you say that, because there's been so much news about you possibly being an heir apparent to the Manchester City club someday in the future. But you keep on talking about what it's like here. Is there something that draws you?
No, but I'm not really concerned about what people saying or writing about my future, because I'm the one who making a decision about what I want to do, and I'm really happy here because I believe that I'm in the right place with the right people. And the ambition of this football club is fantastic. The project is massive, because we're talking about the football club who want to achieve big things, and the football club which just exists for the last 2 years, and there's a lot of pressure in this football club, and I'm really privileged and really pleased to be part of it. And my main focus and concentration is about how can I work well and work hard with the team, with the players, to achieve our goal. All the other stuff coming out of it is not really my concern, because I really enjoyed every single day in training. I love the players, the way they work on the field, the concentration, the focus, and the quality of the players we have. I'm really enjoying it every single day of it.
Now, with the players, you have a unique gathering of players, a unique roster. You have top star players. You have players that have, that for lack of a better term, are workhorses, people that are high in work rate, American players. How do you manage all those different personalities?
It's just to try to treat everybody the same way. I have young players like Mikey Lopez, who is a young, talented, hungry players who want to succeed. I have on the other side Andreas Pirlo, who is one of the best players of all the time in the last 15-20 years, full of experience, playing a high level, won the World Cup. So one of my job as well is try to understand Mikey that he has to look at Andrea, he has to learn from Andrea and make Andrea understand that he has to help Mikey to grow up as a player, and the way that them two interact and the way that they are working and talking to each other is really interesting, and that is why I feel really privileged, because there is a really good understanding about everybody's role in the team, not just on the field but off the field as well. So everybody understands they have the massive part to play about helping young players to grow up, and the other ones bringing something on the field, like bringing the energy, the enthusiasm and all the stuff like that, so we can help the team to perform better at a higher level. So I'm really pleased with what's going on at the moment in a football club and on the field.
Continuing with that theme, you're managing American players. In Europe, you're looking at players who have gone through the system from the age of 7 to the time they become professionals. What is unique and different about coaching American players?
I think the problem, I've seen it as a problem, but when you're coming out of college, between 19 to 23, it is a really important age of knowing where you are as a footballer, because in Europe, between 19 to 21, you are already in mind of being a professional football player. And I think the gap is really big between college football and the MLS. So when you have a young players coming out from the college and going straight away to the MLS with not professional game in his as experience, we ask him too much. And that is the big difference between what's going on here and in Europe. In Europe at 19, you played already in a professional level.
Right.
Or you are really close to the professional level. And here, college, you're coming out of college and you played the competition is not really close to the MLS, so is a massive gap for players at this age to cover.
Now, what have you learned about yourself as a coach? Because I'll tell you, a lot of people are very surprised at what they see out of Patrick Vieira, the coach. Before we even get into that, where did you get the UM formation from? I mean, did you ask your grandparents for it? That's soccer lore.
No, I think it's just I'm really interested about the job, and I want to do it as best as I can. And when I decide, and when I make the decision to be a football coach, I knew that it will be really demanding, and I have to be aware about what's going on. I have to be really clear about the way I want the team to play. I need to have all the options in my hand so I can make the best decision possible. So I like to look at games. I like to look at what managers doing in training. I like to take ideas from everybody, and I try to find a way I can do it on my way. And I have different systems that I quite like. I've seen games in Italy where coaching are really defending really well. I've seen the games in Spanish where they like to play the small passes, but all attacking football. So I like to see what's going on in the model game and try to learn from it.
We've seen you go through, again, the WM formation, 3-4-3. We've seen a 4-3-3 at times. Looking at those formations, is there a reason that you deploy them? Does it have anything to do with the dimensions of Yankee Stadium? Is it something better for the players of your club?
But the dimension of the Yankees Stadium is one of the reason. Yes, the reason as well is because we want to control the game and always have 4 players in the midfield. Always give us an option to control the game against the team who use 2 or 3 midfielders. Because what I really want is the team to have the possession of the game, to control the tempo of the game, and have the different options of creating more chances.
Now, Patrick, we turn to some of the fans to ask them for their questions for you, and we have 3 of them. I'll start off with Leonardo Aranda, and he asks, what's the status of Frank Lampard? We've heard he's been training individually for a while, but the rest of the players have trained individually, still trained with the rest of the club. So what is his injury status? What is it that's going on?
No, he's a calf problem with Frank, and he's getting there. He's taking it a bit more longer than we thought he's going to take, but he will be back, and Frank is still going to have a massive part to play in the league. He's a really important player for us on the field and off the field, and hopefully next week he can start to take some part of training individually on the field. But I think he will take a couple of days before he starts training with the team.
Very good. We have another question from @BlueYork1, and he asks, will you continue to experiment with other formations, or is the 3-2-2-3 and the 4-3-3 going to be the main system?
Well, you have the 4-3-3, you have the 3-4-3, and then you have the 3-3-4, because you can play with two players up front. It's just I will choose one of the systems regarding the opposition team, how they organize themselves, and we can always start the game in a 4-3-3 and then finish it with the 3-3-4 regarding the score of the game, if we need to chase it, if we need to score. But I think it's important for the players to understand what is their role and responsibility in each system that you played. So of course I will choose the system that I believe the players really fully understand it and can express themselves through the system that I will choose.
Very good. @Macintosh Roscoe asks, how much would it mean to you to outdo the Red Bulls this season?
I know that the Red Bulls games is really important for the fans, and I fully understand that. But I think what is really important for us is to win the games. I think the 3 points is more important than just beating the Red Bulls. We will of course going to try to win it because we know it's important for the fans.
And we're going to have to make this the last question here, Patrick, because it is pouring here at NYCFC training.
It looks like we're in Manchester.
It looks just like Manchester. You should feel at home. Final questions. You have the Chicago Fire coming up this weekend. What can we expect out of that encounter?
It will be another difficult game because Chicago are getting better and better game after game. I think they will be a really strong team, well organized, and they will not going to give us a lot of space to play the game we want to play. I think the game will be only based on how concentrated and focused we will be, because every mistake we will make, I believe that we will be punished straight away because of the quality of players and the pace they've got up front.
New York City FC play the Chicago Fire this Sunday at Yankee Stadium. Patrick Vieira, thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you very much. Nice to have you.
And we're back. EoS Radio. Follow us on Twitter @EoS Radio. Follow us on Empire of Soccer @Empire of Soccer. And of course, follow us on empireofsoccer.com each and every day for the latest on the teams that you love. Now, I got to tell you, being in those monsoon conditions with rain, whipping winds. I mean, you must have heard it in that audio. It's an experience I'll never forget. Having Patrick Vieira enduring those kind of conditions for us for this very first episode, just incredibly grateful. A fantastic interview. In particular, I enjoyed the fact that Vieira was so honest about his transition to Major League Soccer, because let's face it, this is a different league, different rules. It can confuse just about anybody. As a matter of fact, we'll get into it as the show goes on, of course, as this series goes on. But it could be argued that the rules around Major League Soccer can be a barrier to entry. But Patrick Vieira is making absolutely no excuses. He's got Claudio Reyna by his side. He's also got his technical staff. They're all contributing in some way, shape, or form to make this work during this very important transition phase for Vieira as the head coach of Major League Soccer's New York City FC. Just a great interview, great insights on the comparisons with European and American players, talking about his transition into the league here. And of course, the questions from you guys, from the fans, were just fantastic. So again, I want to thank you all for your participation. We will be back with another Bluecast, maybe next week, most likely in 2 weeks. So keep your eyes out for that. We'll take your suggestions for guests as we go on. For the next EoS Radio podcast, we are planning on having the New York Red Bulls highlighted on Tuesday with the Redcast, and the New York Cosmos on Thursday of next week with the Greencast. So if you want to hear a little bit about the other teams in the area, feel free to tune in. Again, thank you all for the support. It truly means a lot. This is an amazing endeavor for us. We've been talking about it for a very, very long time, and it means so much that you've joined us here for this maiden voyage. For Dave Martinez, that's me, Christian Araos, you know him, and Patrick Vieira, the head coach of New York City FC, thank you all for tuning in to EoS Radio Ep.1. We'll be back at you next week.
Thanks for listening to EoS Radio. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Empire of Soccer, and visit empireofsoccer.com for all things New York soccer.